could do you or follow along, but I'm gonna do whatever I want. I make the rules, I don't play along. I do whatever I want, and I ain't asking you if I'm right or wrong. I do whatever I want, stuck in your head like a song. I'm both the king and the calm, so stick it 'cause I got the sauce. I'm everything on the menu, so dope that I'm breaking the news, and I ain't got nothing to prove. So you can do you or follow along, but I'm gonna do whatever I want. I make the rules, I don't play along. I do whatever I want, and I ain't asking you if I'm right or wrong. I do whatever I want. I do whatever I want. I do whatever I want.
This is a quick audio test, just to make sure everything's working. How are you guys today?
I ain't gonna listen to you. I'm too busy making the move for number one, not number two. Baby, you know I'm the boss. If I want it, I want it all. I win at whatever the cost. So you can do you or follow along.
Hi everybody. Um, we are here, and I've got a couple people in the chat already, but let's get started. This week we're going to be using SpeedTree 9, which is not out yet. It's in beta version right now, and we are working on a games tree. I'm going to be teaching you, this is a complex based photogrammetry mesh, and we're going to use pretty much all of the new features that allow you to place all of the procedural SpeedTree stuff off and convert bark. And I got the unit going away. There you go. This model is just a freehand. I don't have a model in mind. I don't even have a species in mind. And we're going to go ahead and get started off of a blank file. This tree base is actually taken by our director of operations. Ran and got it from a sidewalk, I think. It was like right outside of a neighborhood. It's actually a crepe myrtle base, and so we are just going to kind of steal it and make it our own thing. This asset here that I'm using in the bottom is from Quixel Megascans. It's a concrete pot, I think, if you Google for it, if you want to use that planter. I think it's supposed to be a lot smaller than it actually is being used here, but we just steal and recycle. So, feel free to ask questions in the chat if you guys need me to slow down. We're going to try to take this piece by piece, and this will be a 2-part stream, so we will be doing clustering and lighting and setting the LODs and wind on this game tree the next week. So, I'm going to just start a new file, and if you were doing this from scratch, you just go File New. I've got it all set up here with just a few things in that I've already brought in, but we're going to go ahead and do this just like we would from scratch. The first thing we need is our mesh base that we're going to build off of, and we're going to go ahead and grab that. I have here the materials for it. I don't need too many maps for this guy. I kind of have, I'm going to drop that in there just so we can see these separately, and then just make it a little bigger for you guys. Oh, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add the mesh that goes with our tree trunk down here in the meshes tab. I've already brought it in, but just for posterity, you click the plus button, and I'm going to grab that from our file. I've got everything separated in nice little folders so I can keep it nice and neat. We're going to grab our maple trunk. I don't want to do anything with it right now. I'm just going to hit OK. And we're going to go back to our material bar. And there we go. I was making sure I called up to date there. We're going to go back to the material bar, and we're going to go to the cutouts and meshes tab on the material bar. And we're going to select that maple trunk that we just brought in. And so now these guys are linked together. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to our templates up here. And we're going to add our mesh. This was in SpeedTree 8, so we just added more things to this queue here. So you've got a lot more templates in the photogrammetry area here. We're going to assign a material. You can drag and drop it, but we're also just going to go over to the properties here. I'm going to scoot this over so it's a little bigger and easier for you to see. There we go. All right, so material tab, we're going to go ahead and add, we just brought in that third one. I have a lot of materials in there now. And you can see that this thing is push that down. Now I'm making more of a garden sized tree. I know our stream says potted things that we keep on our desk. But we're gonna make one that would be hanging out in a Japanese garden. I picked out a Kashima maple because I had the leaf for it, and I just decided that was gonna be our little inspiration here. Now, one of the things about this mesh that you'll notice right off the bat is this is a lot more complex than a lot of the meshes you'll find on Quixel Megascan. There's a couple different branches going off here, and when you have a mesh like this, you really have to break down exactly what you're going to do before you do it and how you would approach this mesh. There's a couple things going on here. This right here, this hole in the mesh, does not make for a good stitch area because it wraps around itself. So we're looking for tube shapes tube shapes are going to be able to transfer, break down on this mesh where we want to connect. Right off the bat, the really cool thing about this mesh is I have this really long stretch of material from here to here that I'm going to steal and take out with the converter, and that will be our base mesh where we will extend the rest of the tree. So we're going to go ahead and get started with that part. We're going to add a mesh converter to the scene. We're going to add, it's in your templates for photogrammetry. Mesh converter. We want to connect it to the actual mesh. So if it was hanging out down here, it's not going to do anything. It needs to be actually attached on there. And this is a new geometry entirely. It doesn't really function like your leaves or your branches or anything like that. It's only... And just making sure I got a smooth stream. I hope we're not skipping too much. And from the stream chats, bald cypresses are definitely like up there in my favorite trees. Those are so cool. All right, now that we've got one in the scene, I'm gonna do exactly what I just said. I'm gonna steal this texture so we can start working with the rest of the tree. I'm gonna grab the bottom button by clicking it with the mouse to select it. I'm holding the T button and I'm placing it on the bottom of the branch. I'm gonna do the exact same thing with the top. That's what these stand for, is top and bottom. I'm gonna click it, hold the T, and then click points on the inside following the line. These are the accurate spine. These are actually, if you had a regular spine, let's just add a trunk in here for a second. These are going up and thing there. Had a little lag in my computer. Okay. So we want to add a couple more of those off the bat just so we can get this nice and crooked. Patching, if you were processing this scan for the first time and you just brought it into SpeedTree, you really don't need to do a lot of the cleanup. So we're going to go ahead and edit this guy. If you click the pink area, you're going to get all of the properties are going to pop up on the left here, or wherever you have the property bar. We are going to go ahead and add just a few of these guys, and we're going to make the clearance bigger. You want this to include all the way around the tree and make sure you have all these shapes in there. Right now, this would not be a very good mesh to send out. Material has got some weirdness in there, and so we're going to try to clean this up and make it a little better. I'm going to see if moving it down a little bit will actually help it. You can either select it again or you can move it like screen space keys. I'm just going to kind of get it started there. If you push the screen space keys, you can move these up or down. And if you ever get to a position where you need to center it again, you can go over here and center it, just like our other stitches. This little windy part in here might be problematic, and we're going to see if it went away. So I've still got a bit of a bug there, so we're going to go ahead and move it up and see if we can get it out that way. I'm just going to do that, and that right there is telling me that it's not on the center. It's unhappy, it's folding over, it's just got too much points in it. So we're going to click that B again and hit center, and we're going to see how we did. I'm going to see if I can add some extra points in there, and nope. That did not work. We're going to relax a little. Relax is after you have the points in there. If it's not behaving correctly, you can kind of smooth them out a little bit. And we're still really having a problem area in here. Let's just focus on taking a shorter bit out. Some of this is going to be very problem solving, and you move it around, kind of see. Most of the meshes that we have, or the ones we will be including in the SpeedTree library, don't have all these branch offs and different things going on in them. It's much easier to photogrammetry scan a tube structure in general. Less photos of getting up under here, and these areas tend to be pretty hard to scan. All right, let's see if we did it there. So that's all wrong, and it's just because we're off the mesh. So let's just see if we can get it onto position. Yeah, let's see what we're doing now. It's really, I'm just noodling things back and forth to see if I can get that one spot out. I didn't have that spot in there quite so apparently earlier, but it's there. All right, we'll just end up doing a shorter piece, and that's okay. I think we've got plenty to work with here. It's a little less apparent here. And I'm just gonna check chat and make sure y'all don't have any questions so far, but it's pretty basic so far, I guess. All right, let's see if we can get this guy a little happier. This part's not great. We're gonna relax that out a little bit. Sometimes you just have too many in there, which is also a side effect. I'm gonna make the clearance even bigger out here. I don't really like that one spot there, but we are going to change the blend up here. This region is represented by this little orange area right here. So you can see where you're taking it from. If I were to extend this out, I could blend a lot more. Probably don't want to go that crazy. I'm going to do a pretty big blend because we have all this material there. Why not? And then I'm going to change the blend to default 2. I use default 1 and 2 a lot. I don't know if that's just a habit, but they seem to work like almost all the time. You can shift this around if you don't like where it is, if you've got like a little shadowy part or something. You can also layer that in if you need it. Sometimes it's nice to draw the top so it's a little bit, so if I stretch this out too far, I'm gonna have a hard line. We want to make sure that that stretch is in a good position so it can fade off into the other material. After you've got this in a place where you like, which I really don't, I kind of want to work on that a little bit. I think I've got some overlap here where this big bump is. I'm going to see if I can get that out. You can make this material, see that made it really, really stretch. You see where it's overlapping there? That's what we want to avoid there, is that pattern. I'm going to make the preview size just real big so you can see what's going on in there. That's a no-no. We want to go back to our points and even those out. There's just so much of a turn up there that it does not know. There we go. Struggling. All right, and we've got, there is a little texture error in there. We could edit that out. I think it's actually in the original cutout mesh itself. We're gonna go ahead and send out our material. I'm going to make this a high resolution, so it's gonna take a second. For this one, I'm just gonna say make a new material. This is gonna make the material in the folder, and it's going to bring it into SpeedTree for me, so I don't have to bring it back in. I'm just grabbing my folder really fast, and we are going to put this in a new folder just specifically for the stream. And hang on one second. Yeah, we're back. All right, I'm gonna just put this in a new folder so we've got a fresh thing to work in here. I'm gonna say this is my maple one, and go ahead and go in there. There we go. You guys would be interested in seeing a tree with flowers, like a cherry tree. We definitely have a flower only stream coming up. We'll have to ask Amanda for the schedule there as I made it. I can definitely do flowers on the tree itself. And I'm actually the one that made the cherry tree that is on our store, so you could definitely do that one or a different one. Depending on the resolution you have, the flowers themselves will be flat or created just individually and then exported back out. So we could actually add flowers to our game tree next week if we want to do that, because I'm going to be making the clusters and the upper canopy of the tree. So, I've got this back on there. This mesh ain't perfect, but we'll work it in there. We've got our new material it just made, and we can check on it. And looking good. You can see all the little flaws in that one kind of came out there. We are going to go ahead and start building now that we've got a material to build off of. And so we're going to use the new bake stitch. I'm going to add, and we're going to go to photogrammetry. And in V8 you have the band and the wrap stitch, and there's just a bunch of different ways around that, but we're going to be using the new one, which is the bake. We're going to add it to the mesh itself in the tree window, sorry, generator bar. And you get this little alien thing popping up. I'm going to hide the converter because we don't really need it right now. And let's make sure chat was caught up to date. All right. Right off the bat, all of these tools in here are made to tell you when you've done something wrong. So if you see a big exclamation point, you can click it now, and it's going to say it's invalid here. I dropped it because I haven't put it into location. So these are very helpful to kind of lead you along the way if you're doing something and you can't figure out why this gizmo is shooting out angry lasers. That's why it's telling you it's invalid. It needs to be resting on a good place on this photogrammetry mesh. The first thing I want to extend is one of these guys. I tilted the other one around because I was going to put it in the pot. I'm going to make this one a little different just because why not? So I'm going to kind of, before I stitch anything, move this guy around a little bit. I'm hitting the screen space keys so you can move your mesh around, but you can just rotate it a little bit. I'm going to hide the base so that part won't matter. And then after I have this in position, I'm going to actually lift it up off the ground a little bit because we're going to put it in a pot. And we're going to go ahead and set up our stitch. I don't want to stitch twice. I just wanted to not be very complicated. So I'm actually going to grab it and stitch there. I'm going to hold the T again and push the place button. And I had the wrong thing selected, so it moved the mesh. That's okay. I had the stitch is supposed to hop there. There we go. It's hard to drive and stream at the same time. There we go. We're going to move it down a little bit, and these little red grid lines are telling me that I'm nowhere near it, and they're shooting out rays, and they're trying to find this thing. So the closer I get to it, you'll see that these 3 rays made it, and I need to go that direction to get it lined up. I got the extension kind of popping up there. We're going to turn this thing. If you don't want to do this manually, all you have to do is go back to generator mode. It will switch you to node mode if you're moving something around manually. Switch back to generator mode and go to settings. Maybe it was the node mode. It was node mode. I just forgot. It's the center and align with parent. There we go. You can switch back and forth between these guys. You're going to be doing that a lot while you build in SpeedTree, but our generator mode and our node mode, by hitting the tab button, it tries to do it pretty intuitively, like once you go back and forth and move these around, but it's still a computer, so it's got to tell it sometimes. This did not align quite like I wanted it to, and so I just click it again and it's hopped into position there. It actually did a really decent job. I want to cut this guy out, and so we're going to actually grab the... this time we do want to be in the settings in generator mode. We're going to grab the clearance and push it out a little bit, and we're also going to do the clearance spread and take the top of it and just cut the whole thing out up there. One of the things you want to be strategic about if you are making a desktop tree is you probably would not be using a mesh this big to begin with. This is a very big mesh. I forget how many polygons it is. It is by itself 18 vertices, 18K. So if we were doing a desktop tree, we would probably want to just convert this and take the shape from it and ditch the entire mesh. But for this hero tree, we're going to try to keep things as low as we possibly can while keeping all this unique detail down at the bottom. Now that we've got that one in place, we want to adjust the blend a little bit, and we also want to go ahead and put our material on there so we can see what that looks like. The one that I just brought in, that I just made, I'm going to just drag it and drop it on the tree. And this little area here, you can see that the big stitch is a lot more intuitive. It just sort of looks down and it's got our blend ready to go. You're going to adjust this sort of like you did with the other tool, with the mesh converter, but you have a blend and you can change this if you need to. We're going to keep it on one of the defaults because it does a pretty great job. You can see that there's a little bit of a difference here if you need to adjust the size difference. That's going to be in the stitch. And we have a bake area here. We can change the fall off, and that's going to blend the height map of this guy, kind of take that shape and follow it up. If you need to rotate, you can do that. Like if you have a very stripy material like this one and you kind of want to line them up, which I do. Let's go to keep it like that. So this one did pretty good. I didn't have to do a whole lot of editing, but it's really not in bad shape. The shape here might be a little bit different because I kind of want it to be just a little bit matched up, and you can just adjust it there with the radius. I went to the branch itself and did that. And we're going to go ahead and add shape and everything to this when we get finished. The difference between the bake stitch and the other stitches, excuse me, is that you have to bake at the end. Hence, but you want to set all of your bake stitches up and then go back at the end, and you're going to hit the mesh tab and bake them from the material setting here, and we'll do that at the end. So we need to pick another spot to go ahead and bake a branch off. So we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to get that guy going, and then we're going to do one convert in place just for kicks and giggles for the bottom, so we can use a different set. This is complicated up here, and this one is open, and so I'm going to see if I can actually just stitch a lot lower. This is going to be a very difficult place to stitch, so we might have some trouble getting it set up, but we just need a little patience. We're going to, also the specular is terrible because I didn't do any PBR adjustments on this, so it's a little speckly and bright. We can kind of adjust that as we go. There we go. And you know, if we wanted to do an already different tree, you could just go ahead and change the color up just a little bit. It was very blue, which is fine. That's some trees are like that, but we'll just tone it down a little bit. Okay, let's see if we can get a stitch to be happy here. And if we end up getting an error, it'll be great because we can show you how to work that through too. We're gonna go ahead and add another stitch. This one is just a default one. Then I'm gonna grab it, hold the T and select the mesh. And it, I wasn't paying attention, but I just dropped it on the tree window. It's not attached to the mesh. There it goes. I couldn't find it for a second there. All right, we're gonna do the exact same thing I thought I was doing. I'm gonna grab that and go ahead and move it over there. And it should be displaying. We're probably gonna have to go way down low. If you look at this mesh head on, you'll see that this is a very irregular non-tube shape. And that's what makes the stitch a little bit more difficult to place. And we're gonna just align it and center it and see where that gets us. I feel like it needs another align. I think the order there, maybe center it first before you align it, will help you out a little bit. This one's kind of pushing in a little bit, and that's okay. It's telling me right off the bat here, it doesn't look like an error, but I do have a problematic stitch loop. It means that it cannot stitch here because it's folding too much in on itself, which is probably that little area right there. So we're just going to try to move this up and down to an area where it gets happy. And lowering it kind of helped it out a little bit. So we're going to see if that'll work for us. So I'm going to center it again. There we go. Just needed to hop. Make sure we were in the good space. But now it looks like it's a little bit happier and still giving me a warning because I still will need to bake it. And it's just in there to remind you to do that at the end. We're going to do the exact same thing where we're going to grab the clearance on this guy. I'm going back to generator mode. Keep unselecting it on accident, but that's fine. Clearance spread and just chop that entire thing off there. I'm probably going to need to make this extension a little fatter. To kind of match it up. And I kind of want to see if I can pull our stitch up a little bit because it's just not exactly an even thing there. That big of a fall off might run into difficulty, but we'll see if that works. And we're going to use the same mesh. We're going to use the same bark that we made earlier and just drag and drop it again. These guys have a height map already in them. That's a new thing in SpeedTree 9 is it's going to make a height map for you. And one of the things we can do right off the bat to give these guys some shape is to go to displacement. And we're going to save from the material because we've got our height map loaded in over here. And we're going to fit to geometry so that it matches that height map. And then we'll just add a little bit of that in there. And the reason I'm doing this right off the bat is so I want to make sure that my big stitch still works with the tweaking that I do to the branch. Should be pretty happy with that. I'm going to do just a little bit there. And we've got a good base to start working from. This one seems like, since I changed the color a little bit, I really should have done that before I sent out that other map. I'm just going to tone this one down and try to match it. Because I just got a big color difference there. I think I added a little bit of yellow and added just a little bit of red. There we go. Better. And let's just see if I've got any questions in the chat real fast. And just questions that Danny has already covered. Thank you, Danny. Okay, and now I want to start shaping now that we've got our 3 little branch offs here. I have not done this one. We were going to do a convert in place just to show you what it looks like, even though we already made a material. That was kind of redundant because I could have done 2 birds with 1 stone, but we'll just go back to this for time. I'm going to use the same mesh converter just because it's already there in the scene. You'll notice the lighting is kind of weird, and that's because it is affected by the screen light in there, so it looks a little extra shiny. Let's see if we can get something remotely. Easier to work with. It is just shiny because I didn't set it up great, but it works. We're going to X out these maps because we're not using them, and we are going to adjust. I think that I want to see if I can attach this a lot lower. I'm going to do a convert in place of the branch for this one. So on the bottom one, I'm going to go ahead and put this as low as I can. You'll see it's jumping to grab the rest of the mesh here, so we can go ahead and fix that by pushing the blend range back down way low. And now it is relatively in a better spot. We'll see how we do there. This one went all the way up and it's having less issues. I need to make the preview size just a little bit smaller. And it handled that a lot better down at the bottom than it did the first time we ran through it. So it's actually a pretty good shape. I can't talk today. We probably don't need all these points in there, but it seems like it helps the pinching a little bit. Word of warning, if you put like a bajillion points in there, it will run a little bit slower. So, you probably want to keep that a little lower. Gonna move this up just a little bit so we can have a little bit more. You'll see on the bottom, you see where my triangles disappeared? It means that there's so few triangles in here and the space in my blend range is just really tiny. And I made a weird shape in it too. I'm gonna max this out again. And you'll see my triangles came back, and I might make it a little bigger just to see if I can get some more stuff in there. I'm going to change the blend because I didn't really quite like it. And I probably need to stretch it back out. Gonna play around with that just a little bit to see if I can get it. I might just use the simple one and see if it, nope, I like the default better. We'll go back to it. There's a lot of these are just different shapes. Like this one has some pine shapes in it so that it looks like more cut out. But I think this will work fine for what we need it to do. I'm going to just change that to 1 because I don't really want it to be tiny in there. And I think that will work. I think we're going to go down to the bottom, and this is a big resolution again, and we are just going to say convert and place. There's a bunch of different things that these can do. You'll be using these bottom two probably the most. Convert and place. We are in our bark folder. I'm just going to call this the bark 2. It's going to go ahead and bring it back in for me after I'm finished with it. And is it possible to model a Lego bonsai in SpeedTree? I'm gonna have to try that one. I've been challenged. I think that if you scanned all of the Lego pieces, maybe. I think we could do it. It'd be pretty fun. Okay. The magic that just happened was I now have a SpeedTree branch that's attached to my regular branch, and this here is the old mesh just showing through. So I need to go back to my stitch and I need to clear the spread so I can knock that out of there. This guy is now editable, and if you'll see, it has the same height map on it, so it already looks kind of awesome because it's shaped exactly like the other guy there. We're going to start shaping everything else. I don't know why it disassigns that bark there, but I like the second bark we made better anyways. I'm just going to switch. We made a much better map that second time, so our mesh converter that time was kind of redundant, but that's okay. We're just showing you how things work. I think that fixed the problem. And the next thing I did on the other tree is I started shaping these guys. If you want to look at this without leaves, oh yeah, we definitely got crazy here with the generators because of the different branches off here. I'm going to use the bend tool to give these guys some shape. One of the things I like to do for this is keep them in a good poly range for while I'm bending them, and then I'm going to go remove them after I'm done so I can kind of judge where I need to keep polygons and where I don't. On all three of these things though, I do want to make them a little longer, and so I'm going to grab them all together. People don't usually edit things all together, but you can multi-select and add these guys with some values in there together. I'm going to use an absolute amount because I really want to control these guys, and that is probably super long on the top one, but that's okay because we're going to taper the ends too. I'm grabbing all three of them and I'm going to the skin tab, and I'm going to drop the bottom of the branch down so it's just kind of gracefully bending off there. Since this is a game tree, you're probably only going to have one more set of branches, or you can just stop it there and then add everything else there as a texture. Freehand mode is a new mode with generator mode. So we're going to switch to that mode, and you've got all these new things in here. We can do them. Bend tool is probably my favorite thing. A lot of people struggled with hand drawing because it is tedious and you're moving around in this space a lot. This tool just lets you grab. This is going to be like the hinge, and you can just grab that guy and move it wherever you want it. Instead of having to do a bunch of controls to get these guys to swing different ways, you now can just move it exactly where you want it. And since this is a hero tree, it probably would go in the game in a very specific location, to make sure that the player walk by it to appreciate all the work that you put into it. We're okay to make these. These are technically node edit, so if I were to hit the randomize right now, these would go away. So you just want to keep that in mind, that you might have a couple different versions of the tree, or you might make the top canopy of the tree regularly, and then use these photogrammetries to switch in and out to make a couple different versions of the artier version of it. I really do. I'm just sliding these around and editing them. These little gizmos on the side here, these will let you twist. You can hold the space bar down and you can actually stretch this out shorter or longer. This is the size of the actual arc there. So if I wanted to do a big curve, I can do that. I like working with the little teeny tiny ones and just going a little slower. Just feel like you can get a lot more out of it that way. I really like, we have a property now to let you get the backside left or right swooping. That was hard to do before without putting a force in there, but now you can do that real fast and just kind of swoop that guy around. If you're doing something very arty and you want that little, I don't know what to call it, swag, where it has like an elbow and then we have the branches coming off, that's kind of what I'm going for. That was entirely a technical term, I'm sure. All right, that one's doing okay. I think that I'm gonna individually edit this to taper off a little bit when I get done, because they should be doing a little bit of a different thing. I'm gonna keep this main one up a little bit higher, and I'm gonna do a loop up there, and that's because I want a crown of branches, a crown of branches, and a crown of branches. We're just gonna do the exact same thing with this. Sorry if y'all are bored already because I'm just freehand moving this around on the screen, but I do want to create a cylinder as I go on one side. That's the only rhyme to my reason right now, I guess. I'm gonna swoop that around a little bit. I could go real crazy with these if I need them to have a lot of noise and things like that. You can add anything in the regular properties to anything that you've bent. And you kind of do that as the end there. And it's interesting. I'm going to keep it and we'll see where we can go from there. Enough, I guess. Interesting enough. So now we can add some difference to all of these. If I've got separate generators here, why not add some variants and things to them? I'm going to taper off this one on the end pretty aggressively. I'm going to just go ahead and cap off the end there without doing a cap. It's going to be covered by leaves, so it's not exactly super pretty, but it works for game tree. We do the same thing with this guy. I'm going to keep him thicker a little bit up there. Not traditional, but we're gonna grab him and make a little lumpy part in one spot just because we can. You can double click on these if you need to smooth them out a little bit, but should work there. And there we go. I got people coming in late, and so asking the version. This is SpeedTree 9, and this is the games version of the software. So in this software, I can set LODs and games wind, and everything else that comes with the games. We are going to grab back of the skin tab and do the exact same thing. I'm just tapering these off. I don't really foresee myself having too many real branches just because this is such a big mesh. I'm already at 63,000 with this. So with that in mind, we're going to switch over to our polygon mode. We're going to go to scribed, and I'm sitting back here, and these are straight black. That is too many polygons. So we're going to go ahead and take these out. You might want to do this branch by branch if they're very different. In this case, I don't think we're going to have too much of a difference there because they're all kind of the same now. Excuse me. And we are going back to the segments. There we go. I'm just going to bring down the radial segments. I already have it. When you're doing a bake stitch there, it's good to have your segments near the bake stitch because I've got so many segments in the mesh itself, and this needs to kind of lerp onto it. So it's better to keep them down there. And so even something like that might be helpful. I might have taken out just a little too many of them. You can keep them out and use optimization instead. That's good. Seems to really like want to take them out right there, and I don't want that. And so I'm going to actually drop a 0 in the bottom. I'm using the radius curve, which controls the spacing along the branch. So I'm saying that I want it to try to take all the polygons out at the top of the branch and not at the bottom of the branch right now. And that fixed my problem. Hopefully it will help a little bit with the end of my branch. You can see I'm moving around there. I really want them on the bend itself. Same thing with these radial curves here. I'm going to take the radius and drop them way, way, way down on the end of the branch. I just really don't need them there. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to keep them here because this is our little connecting area, but I'm going to go really aggressive with this and see how low we can go. Alright, and now we just dropped and we have 30k, so that means we have 20k for the rest of the tree. This is going to be mostly our leaves, and we're going to put it in a pot at the end. We can put it back on scribe mode and see how we're doing, and the ugly parts in here, yes, they are a little bit ugly, but we're going to cover them up with leaves. So, we are going to do a quick save, and this is going to be our one. And save often and frequently, and do it more frequently than I just did. There we go. Alright, now that we've got this going, I don't really need to put the pot in the scene, but I'm going to go ahead and do that just for posterity. It's just a thing sitting in the scene. I could bring that in as a mesh. Yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to add a leaf. We're going to add the pot itself. I'm just going to the material bar and clicking add, and I have it already in here. Megascan has such strange names for everything. It's okay. I already have it in here, so I'm actually gonna just click that. It's gonna bring all my materials in. I did that earlier, so we are going to grab it from here. You're gonna want to bring the mesh in as well. That's my displacement tab. Ignore what I just circled. I can ready to add the mesh in as well, or the pot. On a games tree, I just used the lowest 3 LODs because I don't really want all of that in the scene. And on the material tab, you would go to the cutouts and you would make sure it's with that concrete planer. From there, if you wanted to add it to the scene, you can add it as a force mesh or a mesh. We added our leaf mesh here. We're going to put it as a material and say concrete container, and there's my little concrete container. You can move this guy around just like you can a mesh, so I am entering the screen space keys here and just kind of popping that up. It is struggling with the ground because it is a leaf and not a mesh, so it wants to flip the backside normals to the right direction when I go underneath the ground, because most people are not putting containers that in the ground. After I got it kind of in position there, I'm going to show you in the skin tab. On the other one, I actually just made it a little bigger. And I made it long and rectangular shapes. Identification. And I did that with the scale. So you can tweak this up a little bit, and you're going to have a little bit of texture stretching, but you can get away with kind of making these Quixel assets stretch and be something completely different this way. I've used this before when I wanted to control like a little thing for my scene, and I just wanted to do disguise the fact that it was the same asset over and over again. Let's go ahead and make it a little bit bigger. It doesn't really matter if we noted it that, but if we were going to be very artsy, we would actually go in and blend these two things together. We're not going to do that today just for time. And it's a little crooked, but we're going to keep going. All right. We want to add a set of branches. We're going to set this one up. I'm going to show you on this one for a second here. Let's just look at one side. Everything I've got on here is resting on these bare branches that I've got set up in there. And then I've got a couple just at the end here, extra branches for even more gnarliness. I added those at the end, I believe. So the second tier there. I already have a branch made, and we're going to do our clusters next week. So I just want to show you that for a second, how we would shape this out. But we're going to grab our bear cluster. We would make that. On the cutout itself, we have a couple different anchors on there. I didn't want to add too many on this tree because it's easier to be more precise with how many you're adding than to knock them out. And so my method of building for a games tree is to be very, very controlled. So I added 3 just at the tip of these bare branches, and then added a LODing cutout in here and saved one for each. We're going to set this up on a spine only branch. And so coming off of this guy, this one here, we're going to add a branch. I'm going to add tubes just to show you how to shape everything and get them all set up before we switch it. We are going to do tubes, and they look horrible. We're going to go to weld them. We're going to go to the gen tab, and we're going to say how many we want on there. These are going to be the main shape of the tree, and so we want them to point forward. I'm going to do that first. The start angle is going to go a little closer together. And then our generation styles, we just want them to spread out along the tree. 3 is going to be a nice balanced look. Because this is kind of a planar tree, I might do interval with a count of 2. And they're always going to come out on either side of the branch. So that's kind of a nice effect. I can spread them here, but I tend to always come down here and add just a little bit in rotation and a little bit in variance there. And right off the bat, I know I'm going to want some planar in here. So I'm going to go to the forces, and I'm going to add a planar force. And then that works for me because I want them to planar on the tip. And we want to add noise, we don't want to add a whole lot of noise on these guys because these are going to be holding our fronds that have our bare branches on them. So just a little swoop is fine. They're probably going to be humongous. We'll go ahead and add a frond. And on the frond tab, we're going to add the material, which is our cluster bear. And this is a beta build, and it's been doing this, but it will eventually add that frond in there. It just takes a second for it to load for some reason. They'll fix that. And it's catching up here on questions, and okay, everything Danny seems to be caught up on, so we should be pretty good there. I'm going to go ahead and do the exact same thing, but I'm going to copy this and paste it into the scene. I just did Control-C on my keyboard there. And that way we've got ourselves set up. I'm going to change the length in here just because these guys are a little bit long, and I already know that I'm going to have the frond sitting on them. And make sure that that's why my fronds weren't showing, because I had fronds off. There we go. I do that all the time. So you can toggle your leaves and fronds and branches and zones and targets on with a number. If you accidentally push it every now and again, you will go nuts trying to figure out where it is. So learn from my mistakes. Just did that on the live stream. But this guy, you'll notice right off the bat that he's not touching the end of the branch. Actually, it would be way easier if I went ahead and changed these. I'm going to change these both to skin and spine only. And now we can see our material here is floating. We want to grab both of our fronds and go ahead and geometry. And we're going to do this boundary and push the boundary up to the start. And that way they start right off the branch. I do want this branch to come off up here, but because we are doing a flat texture for our branches, we want to maintain that illusion there that that is actually connected and not weird. So I'm going to go back to my skin tab and try to make it just a little bit fatter on the end there so that when I back up, I don't see that mesh cutting in and out. Right now, these are too flat, so you're going to see too much of a flat plane. The easiest way to shake that up is to grab the frond and go to these settings here, gravity, fold, curl, and roll. I'm going to use roll first, actually, and with this profile curve, I'm saying that I want just the tip to roll. This is basically like twist on your leaf mesh. Very, very handy. I put a little left-right variance in there, and essentially we want these guys to mimic real branches. And if I'm back here and I can see a flat plane, I have not successfully supported that illusion. So we're gonna go back to our frond and kind of mix this up a little bit. I wish we had multiple things we could add in there. Gonna curl them up a little bit and see if that might just add variance instead of doing the exact same thing on all of them. And you'll see that one is popping in and out, and it's as I'm moving them, that one's getting knocked out because I have collision on. So I'm going to turn that back off. I really don't want collision to be affecting the main branches, so I'm actually going to go ahead and turn that off for them. We'll probably do some more of that when we set up the next thing. And since that worked pretty good, I got one more thing up here that I did not add to. I'm just going to copy and paste for that guy. And we are all set up for next week. What we are going to do next week is add the clusters for the top of this. And so that will be what hangs off the anchor. But I want to actually go through the process of making the leaf cluster with you and making sure we have all of our materials right. One of the other things you can do on these main hero trees is go ahead and add our freehand. If you wanted to sculpt an area and you had a spot on here, real fast, we'd hit scribe mode. You can go to the feature vertices. I'm going to hold down the space bar, and I have a little tool now. And you can left click and add vertices on here. And then go back to our displacement, do the same thing, hold the space bar down and puff that area out, or bring it back in if you need. These little gizmos let you make change your brush right on the screen. It's really, really handy. You are going to have some texture stretching if you ever did something quite that bumpy on this thing. Excuse me. I'm going to be subtle on these guys. So it's really great if you don't have a great scan and you need something interesting to be going along the bottom and you don't want to add the individual lumps or our knots. That's a great way to add that in there. One of the other things I did on this tree was I added the a set of branches and I used bifurcating off of, let's just go ahead and add just off this guy right here since he's the top one. They go to the generation tab. You see this act before bends. I can move this to move after the bend edits, and those big gnarly bends that I made in the branch are going to just shoot off the bifurcation from there. Usually bifurcation will be the elbows of the tree. So this lets you have that really, I guess, I don't know, arty, natural, organic look. without having to work too hard. I would actually do a little bit of bending on these guys as well with the freehand tool to get them fun. Like he needs to go down. And might fill out this weird bald area of the tree over here since I've got a branch. And kind of hold the spacebar down and kind of stretch it out a little bit, and then that might be another little feature interest there. But that leaves off what we are going to do this week, and it was a pretty short screen, feel like. No. If you guys have any questions for me or anything I can do to this tree before we sign off, just let me know in chat. And does V9 have the ability to scale the fronds on the LODs? You're going to make a mesh for each of your fronds that will LOD with that. If you're using the fronds straight out of the modeler and you're not assigning a mesh to it, which would look like this, you can actually change the... I can't remember where it is right now. We'll set it on one of these guys. That was unintentional. I grabbed the wrong thing. We will go ahead and add that on there. I grabbed the bottom base because I wasn't thinking. That's right. This guy here can LOD in number 2. There's a little graph that you need to set so it will lose it. To turn on the LODs for these, you would go to Global Properties and All, and we would hit the Enable and put 3 on there, and then you can preview these guys lowering. Right now I've got the leaves set the wrong way because I have not the leaves and fronds. These I would want to stay on the tree, and that's so you could see them drop. All right. I think they've got a little beta bug in there, but that's okay. Hopefully that answers your question. Hopefully we'll kind of cover that and we get everything LODing and working for the next week. And I appreciate everybody who stopped by. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.